According to the North American Interfraternity Conference, fraternities are more popular than ever. But along with increased fraternity enrollment, there's been an increase in something else, too.
A hazing incident being called brutal and deplorable.
Hazing scandal at Louisiana State University.
Police investigate reports of hazing.
So why do we tolerate fraternity hazing?
When you are a victim of hazing, you do not gain anything, and the perpetrators do not gain anything at the end of the hazing.
This is Susan Lipkins, a psychologist, author, and leading expert in the field of hazing.
Hazing is a process.
Susan also serves as an expert witness in civil cases where
They need expert witnesses to identify whether or not the violence was in fact hazing.
Susan defines hazing as a tradition or process used by groups in order to discipline or maintain a hierarchy.
And way back when we were on the plains, we were nomadic and we needed to know who could help the group. There was some kind of initiation rites where you had to prove that you were strong enough, or a good hunter, or a good gatherer, whatever it was.
But fraternity hazing
Has absolutely nothing to do with proving that you are good enough or that you can help the group. It's a tradition which has, each year, it gets worse and worse and more violent.
But Susan says hazing usually starts not on college campuses, but in high schools.
And all you want to do is be part of the group. You're hazed, the tradition is done onto you. The next year or the next season, you become the bystander and you watch as others are hazed. And eventually you feel like you have the need to do that you have to pass on the tradition. That's your job.
In fact, researchers at the University of Maine asked students about their experience joining teams or other student groups and found that nearly 50% of all students experienced hazing before college. So why then is so much of the discussion on hazing centered around fraternities?
I think what happens in fraternities is that's where we see the most deaths.
Tim was an amazing person. He was so kind. He was a good student. He was a great, loyal friend.
The thing about Tim that sticks with me is that he always wanted to help people and protect people.
This is Jim and Evelyn Piazza. In February 2017, during a hazing ritual at Penn State University, their son Tim fell down a flight of stairs and was knocked unconscious after drinking a dangerous amount of alcohol. According to a Pennsylvania grand jury report, brothers of Beta Theta Pi waited nearly 12 hours before calling 911.
We have a friend who is unconscious. He hasn't moved. He's cold extremity. It's probably need an ambulance.
Tim died the following morning.
I looked up the fraternity when he told me which one that he wanted, and it said online that it was a non-drinking, non-hazing fraternity, and I felt like he made a good decision. We had no idea that hazing was as commonplace and pervasive as it really is.
A landmark 2008 study on hazing reported that 70% of students in Greek life were involved in at least one hazing incident, which suggests more than being commonplace, hazing is a deeply embedded part of Greek culture that doesn't get talked about until someone dies. But whereas hazing deaths in the past have led to little or no effective change, after Tim's death, the Piazzas decided things were going to be different.
Meeting with national fraternity leadership, national sorority leadership, universities, meeting with federal legislators, working with various states to make hazing a stiffer penalty. So we've been pretty active.
So in 2018, a year after Tim's death, Pennsylvania passed a new anti-hazing law, in part because of the advocacy work of Tim's parents.
This is our colleague Rebecca Klein. She's a senior reporter covering education at HuffPost.
And this law is one of the strictest in the nation in regards to combating hazing, and it's supposed to be a national model for states that want to crack down on this.
This law will serve to hold accountable those who commit the crime of hazing, which cost Tim his life, and by its deterrent effect, will save the lives of young men and women like Tim.
Pennsylvania Senate Bill 1090 includes some of the stiffest penalties for hazing in the country, including classifying aggressive hazing that leads to injury or death as a felony charge in the state. The bill was named in Tim's memory. But since every state and institution has its own laws and definitions around hazing, the Piazza's work is far from over.
There is no federal or national laws, and there's no research or money to say, we want to figure out how to stop hazing or how to change it or intervene or prevent it or even report it the way you do child abuse or domestic abuse.
But in addition to changing laws around hazing, the Piazzas are beginning the conversation around why hazing is still tolerated.
I feel like the conversation is happening more and more.
At first we were on our own, trying to figure our way through this loss. And then little by little, one would reach out and somebody else would reach out. And then as other deaths followed, then we would reach out. And then it just took off from there. And together, it's like a network. And if we find one article about hazing in some place, we all post it and it goes viral. So we are helping keep that conversation alive and bringing it out of the dark and out of its secrecy.
Because as the Piazzas found out, hazing is not exclusive to fraternities.
It's rampant in sports, in the military, and in spirit groups and marching bands.
A shakeup at the MBTA Transit Police Academy after new allegations involving the hazing of a police recruit.
Bowie State University marching band has been sidelined after allegations of hazing within the organization.
The United States Marine Corps said Thursday a recruit killed himself in March amid widespread hazing at Parris Island.
You learn how to haze as a victim, you watch as a bystander, then you're a perpetrator, you do it onto others. You take that blueprint, throw it into your backpack, and take it with you to college, to the military, and to the workplace.
I think one of the problems in identifying hazing is that it can start out so minor, and it wouldn't seem like hazing, and then it can escalate, and it's a slippery slope.
Only when the culture of kids who are involved in hazing, or people involved in hazing, when they stand up and they say, me too, we're not going to haze anymore, we're going to have that kind of social movement, I think that's when we will start to see hazing end.